At 5:05 a.m. Universal Time, Earth stopped rotating. It didn't happen all at once, there was no dramatic screeching halt, no cataclysmic earthquakes tearing cities apart. Instead, the world's spin decelerated imperceptibly over 5 minutes. Long enough for a few observatories to notice the stars in the wrong place, short enough that no one could do anything about it. On one side of the planet, the sun froze on the horizon in an eternal sunrise, on the other, eternal twilight began. Power grids overloaded. GPS systems failed. Aircraft veered off course. The oceans, no longer bound by centrifugal momentum, began to swell toward the equator. Coastal cities flooded as seawater rose in walls 100 meters high. Tides didn't roll, they crashed. And then the sky cracked. Not metaphorically. A jagged rift tore open the stratosphere above the Indian Ocean, revealing not space, but a massive, pulsing void filled with colossal interlocking gears. Turning without sound, grinding without vibration. Something mechanical yet impossibly ancient. Something watching. From the rift descended a single shape, a cube the size of Manhattan. Black, seamless, floating silently down to hover over the Maldives. On its sides, glowing white symbols burned into view, cycling every few seconds. Linguists recognized none of them. AI couldn't decode it. Quantum computers failed to respond. The cube's message was not meant to be read. It was meant to be felt. A UN emergency session was called. Within hours, every surviving world leader, general, and top scientist was connected via emergency quantum link. Panic, theories, arguments. Dr. Renata Voss, head of the Geneva Complexity Institute, said, "This isn't an invasion. It's a recalibration. Someone, is changing the rules of existence." "Why now?" the German chancellor asked. "Because we reached the tipping point," Renata said. The Anthropocene was the warning. AI singularity was the second. We ignored both. What does it want? Renata stared at the screen showing the cube. It's not what it wants. It's what it's measuring. Meanwhile, in rural Argentina, a boy named Mateo began speaking in tongues. His family had no idea what was happening. Doctors sedated him. But nothing stopped the flood of syllables from pouring from his mouth, phrases in no known language, yet somehow familiar to everyone who heard them. Not logically. Emotionally. As if the words carried meaning beneath meaning. Around the world, more children followed. Speaking the same impossible language. Drawing symbols on walls, in the dirt, in blood. Spirals. Fractals. Eyes. Cities descended into chaos. Governments collapsed under the weight of public terror. Riots exploded. Food vanished from shelves. But the cube remained still. Watching. Broadcasting something beyond comprehension. Then, 3 days after the rotation ceased, the replacements arrived. Not ships. Not troops. Seeds. Black, metallic spheres fell from orbit, embedding themselves in the ground with eerie precision. Within hours, they sprouted, constructs of living metal growing into towers, veined with blue light. They spread across continents, unaffected by bombs, fire, or EMPs. Each tower released a pulse that bent space around it. Buildings near them warped. Time stuttered. Language broke down. In London, people spoke backward without knowing. In Tokyo, gravity doubled. In Cairo, light froze. People moved through it like syrup. And then came the Reapers. Tall, fluid forms, vaguely humanoid, emerged from the towers. No weapons. No words. They simply walked among the survivors. Touching heads. Judging. Those deemed unworthy were unmade, reduced to dust mid-breath. But some were spared. Mostly children. Some elders. Some completely random. Those spared began to change. Veins glowed. Thoughts moved faster. Senses heightened. They saw invisible shapes floating in the air. They heard the cube's voice. It whispered, "You have been weighed, you have been filtered, you have been found partial?" Renata asked aloud. She had survived, locked away in the CERN vaults. Her mind raced. They're not wiping us out. They're refining us. She found Mateo in a resistance stronghold in Patagonia. He was taller now, eyes burning white, speaking perfectly in the new language, what some now called primordial syntax. When she asked him what the cube wanted, he said, balance. Restoration. Correction. We were never the final version. What does that mean? He placed his hand on her chest. It means the old world is dead. And we are the clay of the next. Across the planet, the towers converged their pulses into a single, synchronized rhythm. The rotation of Earth began again, but slower. Deliberate. Recalibrated. The sun shifted position. Stars moved into new constellations. And above all, the cube opened. From its core descended a massive being. Not a creature of flesh or metal, but of will. It existed as thought-given form, wrapped in gold fractals, shifting shapes. It didn't speak with sound. It altered reality to convey meaning. To every survivor, it showed a different form. To Renata, it looked like her lost daughter. To others, it appeared as gods, loved ones, or figures from dreams. It said, "You were not the masters, you were the prototypes, we have begun the final sequence." Half the earth was empty now. No bodies. No wreckage. Just silence. The rest was reshaped. Jungles returned. Skyscrapers dissolved. Oceans cleansed themselves. Human artifacts crumbled. And those who remained, adapted. Mateo stood atop the Andes as a pillar of light rose from the core of the cube into space. Where does it go? Renata asked him. It sends the report, he said. To the architects. Who are they? The ones who decide if we get a second chance. The cube sealed itself. The towers folded back into the earth. The sky cleared. But no one cheered. Because everyone could still hear the ticking in their minds. A countdown. Faint. Cold. Unstoppable. And no one knew what would happen when it reached zero.